Chapter 50-19 Wang Zhu. When Mu Ziyan and the others heard that this beast could not only speak human language, but also seemed to have two souls, they could not help but feel even more terrified. At this point, everyone had no other choice. They all transformed into spirit beasts and fought with this toad beast. The toad beast's attack method was the mucus on its body. One of the Mu family disciples was accidentally sprayed by the mucus on his body and instantly bled to death from all 7 orifices. The head with the soft voice immediately stuck out its tongue with barbs and sucked the corpse of the disciple into its mouth. Seeing this, everyone was scared and nauseated. They could only raise their spiritual energy shields to prevent themselves from being hit by the mucus. Although the toad beast was terrifying, it was fortunate that they had many people. After more than an hour, they finally killed the toad beast. The moment the toad-like beast died, its huge body turned into nothingness, leaving only a shiny pearl on the ground. Mu Ziyan immediately took a step forward and picked up the pearl. She smiled at Zhuang Shichen and Qi Tianhui and said, "The two of you don't have to worry too much. Since our 3 families are in an alliance, the pearl will naturally be divided equally. Next time, the 2 of you can take the pearl." Zhuang Shichen and Qi Tianhui did not say anything after hearing this. After all, a disciple of the Mu family had died this time, so it was only right for the Mu family to get a Wang Zhu first. The Wang Zhu is even more ferocious than we thought. Fortunately, the 3 of us have formed an alliance. Otherwise, it would have been a disaster. However, according to our Zhuang family's elder, only a Wang Zhu with 3 levels of levitation would have such strength. Why would there be such a powerful Wang Zhu here? If the beasts here were so terrifying, wouldn't the floating palaces be even more terrifying? If the enchantment outside is set up in the floating palace on the highest floor, I'm afraid we won't be able to get out, Zhuang Shichen said in a low voice. When everyone heard this, they immediately revealed terrified expressions. That's right. This was only the outer street, but there was already such a terrifying beast here. Would they still be able to survive? Qi Tianhui cleared his throat. Brother Zhuang, you don't have to be so pessimistic. Maybe the beast that we killed earlier ran out from the levitation layer. As long as we work together, we will definitely be able to leave this place safely. Mu Ziyan also echoed, "That's right, everyone doesn't have to worry too much. Maybe this is just an accident." When everyone heard this, they finally calmed down slightly. However, as the sky gradually brightened, they could no longer maintain their composure. At this moment, a disciple cried out in horror, "What's going on?" Everyone looked at him and saw that he was holding a rock in his left hand and a withered branch in his right hand. How did my immortal sword and heaven-ranked Dracena turn into a rock and a withered branch? The disciple asked in disbelief. The others subconsciously checked their storage rings and found that the treasures they had found in excitement 2 days ago had also turned into rocks and withered branches. Some of them were even withered bones. At this time, He Xinjiu was still sleeping soundly at the city gate, while Lan Luoyan and the others were sitting at the side with ugly expressions. Last night, when they saw the mountain-like wild beast in the distance, they were so scared that their souls almost disappeared. They even ran back, rolling and crawling. Now, they tragically discovered that the treasures they had picked up were all a pile of junk, and they almost died of anger. They could imagine that when the troublemaker woke up, he would be sneering at them. Chapter 50-20, The pill given by Elder Tuo. When the sun rose high into the sky, Yun Chuzhou finally opened her eyes lazily. She sized up Lan Luoyan and the others and asked suspiciously, "Didn't you guys go to make a fortune? Why are you back?" Lan Luoyan and the others' expressions became even more unsightly. Lan Luoyan said snappily, "Are you blind? Didn't you see the appearance of a wild beast last night?" Yun Chuzhou narrowed her eyes. The way she looked at Lan Luoyan made Lan Luoyan shudder. "Are you going to slap yourself, or do you want me to do it?" Yun Chuzhou said coldly. Lan Luoyan said fiercely, "Yun Chuzhou, you dare. This is not the imperial city, slap." Before she could finish her words, she received a slap from Yun Chujo. Her entire left face was swollen. Lan Luoyen covered her face and was about to curse when she heard Yun Chujo say coldly, "If you keep talking, I'll cut off your tongue. If you don't believe me, you can try." Lan Luoshan quickly pulled Lan Luoyen behind her and said gently, "Luoyen, don't say too much. Little sister Jiu is the team leader, and the old ancestor said not to disobey her orders. How can you go against her?" As soon as Lan Luoshan finished her words, Yun Chujo said coldly, "Lan Luoshan, don't embarrass yourself in front of me with your white lotus tricks. You said these words to persuade Lan Luoyen, but in fact, you are provoking everyone to be dissatisfied with me. You better put away your shameful thoughts, or I don't mind killing you." Lan Lushan's face froze. She never thought that Yun Chujo would not only see through her thoughts, but also say it out loud and threaten her. Seeing this, Lan Luohan said coldly, "Yun Chujo, do you really think that we are afraid of you? Apologize to my sister, or I will kill you." The corner of Yun Chuji's mouth curled up. "Kill me? If you are not afraid of death, feel free to do it." Lan Luohan could hear the hidden meaning in her words. "What do you mean by this?" Yun Chujo laughed lightly. "It's not that interesting. You all swallowed the pill that Elder Tua gave you, right? What kind of pill do you think it is?" Everyone's expression changed drastically. Lan Luoyen cried out in shock, You mean, that pill is poison?" Yun Chujo shrugged her shoulders. "I didn't say anything. Anyway, if anything happens to me, none of you will survive." Immediately, they all sat down to inspect their bodies. "Oh no, the moment I used my spiritual power, I felt a faint pain in my dantian," Lan Luoyen said with a sobbing voice. "That's right. I also feel that something is wrong with my dantian," Lan Luoji echoed. When the two of them said that, the others also became terrified. They also felt that the situation in their dantian was not right. Could it be that the pills Elder Tua gave them were really poisonous pills? Lan Luoyen suddenly exclaimed, "No wonder Elder Tua didn't give Yun Chujo the pills when he distributed them. They were well connected." Everyone recalled the situation at that time. It was true that Elder Tua didn't distribute the pills to Yun Chujo. Could it be that the old ancestor was afraid that they wouldn't listen to Yun Chuji's orders, so he ordered Elder Tua to poison them? Was the old ancestor muddle-headed? They were the descendants of the Lan family, yet they couldn't compare to Yun Chujo, a person with another surname? Chapter 50-21, Please address me as Captain. Yun Chujo looked at everyone's frightened or angry expressions and said coldly, "I am the captain, so you must obey my orders unconditionally. If anyone dares to speak rudely to me or play any tricks, don't blame me for being impolite. Besides, you should all know that I value my life the most, so all I want is to leave this place safely. As long as you all listen to me, I promise to bring you all out of here safely. However, if some idiot makes his own decision, I won't be so kind as to save him. Do you all understand?" As soon as Yun Chujo finished her words, only Lan Luofang said, "I understand." The others didn't say anything. It was obvious that they were very dissatisfied with Yun Chujo. Yun Chujo walked to Lan Luoyen with a big kitchen knife and asked, "Do you understand?" Lan Luoyen took 2 steps back and gritted her teeth, "I understand." Yun Chujo walked to Lan Luoshan and smiled, "Sister Luoshan, you have always been the most righteous. Do you understand?" Lan Luoshan clenched her hands under her sleeves and said stiffly, "I understand." Yun Chujo then walked to Lan Luoji. Everyone was either afraid of the kitchen knife in Yun Chuji's hand or worried about the poison Elder Tua had given them. Under Yun Chuji's interrogation, they all gave a positive answer. Yun Chujo nodded with satisfaction. "Very good. Since you all have full confidence in me, then let's go now." Lan Luoyen saw that Yun Chujo actually wanted to enter the street ahead and said, "Yun Chujo, the wild beast yesterday was so terrifying, yet you still brought us in?" Yun Chujo glanced at her. "If we don't go in, how are we going to find the enchantment? Also, please call me Captain, thank you." Lan Luoyan's nose almost went crooked from anger. If you have the ability to say thank you, don't point at that broken kitchen knife. Everyone also knew that they could only reach the floating layer above through the crisscrossing streets below, so they could only brace themselves and follow Yun Chujo into the streets. Yun Chujo walked as she looked at the ruins around her. From the exquisite decorations on it, one could see that this place used to be prosperous, but now it had become dilapidated. She did not know how the scene that everyone had seen before was formed, but she had a brain. This place opened once every 30 years. Most of the good things had already been plundered by others. It was obviously against common sense that everyone could find the good things so easily. Yun Chujo randomly picked a ruin and walked in. She took out a wooden stick from her storage ring and started rummaging through the ruins. Lan Luoyan pursed her lips and thought to herself, did this troublemaker think that she would find a treasure in this ruin? Dream on. However, she had learned her lesson. Although she thought so, she didn't dare to say it out loud. Lan Luohan and Lan Luoshan stood at the back of the team. The siblings exchanged a look and looked at Yun Chujo with vicious eyes. Yun Chujo searched for a while but didn't find anything. Lan Luoyan pouted. She said that this troublemaker couldn't find anything. Then, Yun Chujo picked a ruin every now and then and went in to search, but found nothing. However, what everyone didn't expect was that the other three families actually returned and looked at them with hostility. Chapter 50-22, Then go ahead and kill him, Qi Tianhui said with a fake smile. It's better for the four families to advance and retreat together, so your Lan family should also join us. The faces of the Lan family members immediately changed. They were not fools, so they naturally understood the meaning behind Qi Tianhui's words. Was he planning to let them take the lead and send themselves to their deaths? However, there was a huge difference in strength between the two sides, so there was no room for them to refuse. Yun Chujo, on the other hand, looked relaxed and said with a smile, sure, it's good to have more people to work with. Our Lan family can't wait for that. Hearing that, Qi Tianhui pursed his lips. Before coming here, the Qi family's ancestor had told him to pay attention to Yun Chujo. Now that he looked at her, not only was her spiritual power inferior to his, but her mind was also very simple. She was not worth mentioning at all. Previously, when Yun Chujo entered the wilderness, although the Lan family's ancestor knew about it, the other three families did not pay attention to the wilderness, so they did not know much about it. Therefore, although they noticed Yun Chujo, they did not take it too seriously. Mu Zian saw that Yun Chujo was full of promises, so she made up her mind. It was not too late to make use of her to make a trip to find the enchantment and then kill her. Of course, this bitch might be killed by the beast halfway. Zhuang Shichen had other thoughts. Previously, the Lan family had been watching at the city gate. Yun Chujo must have given the order. From the looks of it, Yun Chujo was definitely not a simple-minded person. Therefore, he paid more attention to Yun Chujo. At this time, it was almost afternoon. Everyone no longer had the mood to search for treasures. They only wanted to get to the levitation layer through these streets. However, Yun Chujo was going to the ruins by the roadside every now and then. Qi Tianhui said unhappily, Yun Chujo, if you delay any longer, don't blame us for being rude. Yun Chujo shrugged indifferently. What? We are all willing to be your scapegoats. Is it bothering you that I am going to drag the ruins? You. Qi Tianhui initially thought that Yun Chujo did not know their intentions, but now that she had made it clear, he did not know how to respond. Mu Zian, who was at the side, said, Captain Yun, what Captain Qi means is that this place is very dangerous. We should hurry to the levitation layer. The corners of Yun Chujia's lips curled up. Hurry up and die. Qi Tianhui couldn't take it anymore and said angrily, Yun Chujo, don't be so shameless. Your Lan family is like a turtle in a jar. It's already very kind of you not to kill you. Hurry up, or I'll kill you. Yun Chujo glanced at him. Kill us? Then you should kill us. The two of them pulled him to the side and said in a low voice, "Don't let your emotions get the best of you. We still need the Lan family to scout the way for us. It won't be too late to kill them after we find the enchantment." Qi Tianhui gritted his teeth and said, "But that bitch has been stalling for time. Are we just going to let her be so arrogant?" Zhuang Shichen looked at the sky and said, "It's going to be dark soon. Even if she doesn't waste time, we should set up camp." Danger lurked everywhere, especially after what happened yesterday. Everyone dared not take any action at night. Hearing that, Qi Tianhui snorted and said, "All right, then let that bitch go for now. If she still wastes time tomorrow, it'll show her some strength no matter what." Chapter 50-23 felt that this place was somewhat familiar. After Mu Ziyan and the other two finished their discussion, they began to arrange for everyone to be stationed. Yun Chuzhou continued to rummage through the surrounding ruins. Lan Luofang was really curious, so she went over. "Little Zhou, what are you looking for? Do you need me to help you find it?" Yun Chuzhou shook her head. "I'm just bored and randomly rummaging around. You don't have to care about me. Go and rest well. Who knows, there might be another beast attacking at night." Hearing her words, Lan Luofang could only return to the team. The pavilion that Yun Chuzhou was in at the moment was quite large. She entered the courtyard a few times before entering the second courtyard. Seeing that Yun Chuzhou had already left the others, the small silver snake lowered its voice and asked, "Are you really going to be a scout for the Mu family? It's not certain who will take advantage of who. Are you too stifled in your sleeve pocket? I'll let you out to get some fresh air," He Xinjiu said with a rare conscience. Yun Chuzhou immediately let out the small silver snake and let it coil around her arm. The small silver snake scanned its surroundings with its vertical pupils, and its gaze fell on a broken window lattice on the ground. After a long while, the small silver snake said, "I don't know why, but I feel that this place is somewhat familiar. It's just that I don't like it here." Yun Chuzhou casually said, "Weren't you the Lord of Shengzun in your previous life? Maybe you've been here before, so it's not surprising that you feel familiar. You're the Lord of Shengzun of Yan Clan, and this supreme city is the residence of the gods, so you naturally don't like it." Di Baiming thought about it, and this made sense. He saw that Yun Chuzhou had been using a wooden stick to dig through the ruins, and asked in puzzlement, "What are you looking for?" Yun Chuzhou giggled. "I'm just looking through it. I'm very curious about how those gods live. Look at this fragment. It should be a piece of a bowl. Whether it's the material or the decorative patterns, they are all very exquisite. It can be seen that the life of the original gods was very extravagant." Di Baiming looked at the fragment that Yun Chuzhou was pointing at and said with a hint of mockery, "Maybe it's because they were so unambitious and content with pleasure that they all died in the end. It's possible, but the cultivation of a god is so abnormal. Who is so powerful that they could annihilate the entire celestial race?" Yun Chuzhou asked in confusion. Di Baiming shook his head, "This has always been a mystery. Perhaps I will only know after I break all the seals." There were some dry bones occasionally found in these ruins, but these dry bones belonged to spirit beasts or demonic beasts. There were no human dry bones. At this time, the sky had already darkened. Seeing that there was nothing, Yun Chuzhou put the small silver snake back into her sleeve pocket and slowly walked out. After walking out of the second courtyard, Yun Chuzhou felt that something was wrong. Logically speaking, Mu Ziyan and the rest should have been camping on the street. Why was there no light ahead? Even if Mu Ziyan and the rest had encountered a wild beast, they should not have been so quiet. From the looks of it, there must be something wrong with where she was. If an ordinary person were to encounter such a situation, they would definitely be shocked and scared. However, the corner of He Xinjia's mouth curled up. Interesting. She stopped and raised her spiritual energy barrier. Then, she said with a smile, "Come out." What's the point of hiding? There was no movement around them. Yun Chuzhou added, "TSK, TSK. Since you are so timid, don't follow my example and attack me at night. It's really embarrassing." Chapter 50-24, The Fox-Like Beast. As soon as Yun Chujo finished speaking, a broken wall in front of them suddenly turned into a fox-like beast. The fox-like beast looked similar to a fox, except that it had two huge fangs on its mouth, emitting a faint blue light. Following the appearance of the fox-like beast, the people stationed outside noticed that the courtyard where Yun Chujo entered was shrouded in thick fog. Lan Luofeng immediately stood up. Little Joe is still inside. Did something happen? Let's go in and take a look. However, no one responded to her words. The three families of the Mu family didn't need to say anything. They couldn't be bothered to care about Yun Chujie's life or death. Everyone from the Lan family had their own thoughts and didn't have any intention of saving her. Lan Luofeng stomped her feet in anger and charged towards the courtyard by herself. As she ran, she shouted, Little Joe, are you all right? However, no one spoke. She gritted her teeth and charged into the thick fog. Lan Luoyen pursed her lips. What an idiot. It was good that she was dead. She deserved it. After Lan Luofeng charged into the fog, she saw Yun Chujo and the fox-like beast immediately. She immediately ran to Yun Chujie's side. The fox-like beast laughed strangely. Another one came in. Good, very good. We can have a good meal today. You two little things, kill yourselves. Yun Chujo curled her lips. Where did you get the courage to make us kill ourselves? Could it be that your big teeth gave you the courage? The fox-like beast was stunned. The humans who came in here would be terrified when they saw them. Not only was this little girl not afraid, she even dared to mock its fangs. She was really courting death. The fox-like beast immediately roared. As it roared, Lan Luofeng's eyes became blurred. She could not help but walk towards the fox-like beast. Yun Chujo took out a silver needle and pricked Lan Luofeng's arm. Lan Luofeng cried out in pain and immediately woke up. Yun Chujo stuffed the needle into her hand. If you feel that something is wrong, stab yourself. The fox-like beast revealed a surprised expression. Why aren't you afraid of my demonic roar? Yun Chujo snorted. It sounds so terrible, and you still have the nerve to call it a demonic roar. Do you want to dig out the pearl and give it to me, or do you want me to do it? The fox-like beast roared in exasperation. Stupid girl, do you think that's all I have? You're courting death. Yun Chujo and Lan Luofeng hurriedly set up their spiritual energy shields and looked around vigilantly. Little Joe, why did it suddenly disappear? Lan Luofeng asked as she pricked herself with a silver needle. Yun Chujo couldn't help but laugh. That fox-like beast had stopped barking, so why was she still pricking it? However, this guy didn't warn Lan Luofeng, but said, that fox-like beast is good at illusion. It should have transformed into something else. Then what should we do? Yun Chujo curled the corner of her mouth. It's simple. I'll let it appear on its own. As Yun Chujo spoke, she threw a sack of chili noodles at her surroundings. Soon after, she heard the howling of the fox-like beast. Yun Chujo struck out several bolts of lightning in the direction where the howling came from. Then, she heard the frightened voice of the fox-like beast. Heavenly Thunder Spirit Root. You actually have a Heavenly Thunder Spirit Root. Yun Chujo did not reply. Instead, she shot out several bolts of lightning with flames mixed within. The fox-like beast let out a miserable cry and revealed itself. However, its fur had already been burned by the flames of the small flame, causing it to roll on the ground in pain. Chapter 50-25, Two Delusional Pearls in Hand. Yun Chujo raised her hand again and hacked at the fox-like delusional beast. The fox was cunning, and even if it was a delusional beast, she did not dare to be careless. The fox-like delusional beast should not have any other abilities other than the illusion and the previous phantom roar. Otherwise, it would not have set up a sneak attack here. After a moment, it was burned to death by Yun Chujo. The fox-like beast's corpse disappeared, and a pearl appeared on the ground. Yun Chujo went forward to pick up the pearl and looked at it. She sniffed it again, but she couldn't tell what it was. So, she put the pearl into her storage ring. At this time, the sound of a fight could be heard from outside. Lan Luofang's arm was pierced by dozens of needles. She was in so much pain that she asked, "Little Jiu, we seem to have encountered a beast outside. Should we go out and help?" Yun Chujo glanced at her. "Are you stupid? Why do you care about those idiots? Come, let's squat on top of the wall and watch the show." Lan Luofang thought of what had happened before and gritted her teeth. Those people did not care about little Jiu's life and death. They deserved it. Thus, she followed Yun Chujo and jumped on top of a broken wall, watching the fight not far away. At this time, the one fighting with Mu Zian and the others was a lizard-like beast. The lizard-like beast was very huge, and its forked tongue kept spitting venom. Mu Zian and the others could only use their spiritual energy barrier to fight with the lizard-like beast. Fortunately, there were many of them, and after nearly 15 minutes, they finally killed the lizard-like beast. After the lizard beast's corpse disappeared, there was a pearl on the ground. Because the toad pearl from before had been taken by Mu Zian, Zhuang Shichen and Qi Tianhui wanted to pick up the lizard pearl. However, the two of them were still concerned about their reputation, so neither of them had the face to go forward first. Just as the two of them were hesitating, someone picked up the lizard pearl first. TSK, you guys are quite particular. But that's true. Our Lan family is a new member, so naturally, we have to go first. As Yun Chujo spoke, she put the lizard pearl into her storage ring very naturally. Yun Chujo, hand over the pearl, or don't blame me for being rude. Yun Chujo did not even look at him. Instead, she found a relatively clean place to lay a blanket on and fell asleep. Qi Tianhui wanted to go forward, but he was stopped by Mu Zian. Mu Zian said softly, "Her things will fall into our hands sooner or later. Why should we lower ourselves to her level?" Zhuang Shichen also advised from the side. Qi Tianhui glared at Yun Chujo fiercely and gave up on the idea of attacking. Zhuang Shichen changed the topic and mentioned the lizard beast from before. "I think the lizard beast today is much weaker than the toad beast from yesterday." Qi Tianhui said proudly, "It seems that my guess yesterday was right. The toad beast from yesterday must have really escaped from the levitation layer. We don't have to worry too much." Zhuang Shichen and Mu Zian nodded. Mu Zian raised her eyebrows. "Oh right, why was there a fog in the courtyard that Yun Chujo entered?" "I'll call Lan Luofang over and ask." After Mu Zian finished speaking, she called Lan Luofang over. "What happened between you and Yun Chujo?" Yun Chujo had already instructed Lan Luofang when she was watching the show. Hence, Lan Luofang lied through her teeth. "There was a mist inside. After Xiao Jiao and I met, we finally walked out." Chapter 50-26 is still on it. Mu Zian was skeptical of Lan Luofang's words and felt that Lan Luofang was not telling the truth. Qi Tianhui said with disdain, "If there's really something wrong inside, can they still come out alive? Who cares if there's anything wrong with them, we won't go in." Mu Zian thought about it and agreed, so she let Lan Luofang go back. Lan Luofang heaved a sigh of relief. She saw that the fox-like beast was burned to death by a ball of fire, not struck to death by Yun Chujia's heavenly lightning. Although she was very curious, she still tactfully did not ask Yun Chujo. When she came, Jia Shi had instructed her to follow Yun Chujo, and to listen more and ask less. She knew that not only was her strength weak, but her brain was also not very flexible, so she decided to listen to her mother's words and cling tightly to Yun Chujia's thigh. In the second half of the night, another lizard beast came to attack everyone. Everyone quickly fought with the lizard beast, and only He Xinjiu hid in the corner and continued to sleep soundly. Lan Luofang had finally opened her eyes. She did not put in any effort. Although she was shouting happily, she basically did not make any moves. When the lizard beast was killed, He Xinjiu rushed over with lightning speed and put away the bead again. Qi Tianhui was so angry that he wanted to kill Yun Chujo. In the end, he was stopped by Mu Zian and Zhuang Shichen. Lan Luoshan looked at Yun Chuzhou with disdain. Yun Chuzhou was really courting death. Sooner or later, she would anger Qi Tianhui and see how she would end up. The next morning, everyone continued on their journey. As cannon fodder, the Lan family naturally led the way. Yun Chuzhou hummed a tune as she hopped forward. It was as if this wasn't a dangerous place, but a sunny countryside. Everyone pursed their lips. This Yun Chuzhou was really heartless. They didn't know why the Lan family chose her to be their leader. However, Yun Chuzhou suddenly stopped and pointed at the ruins beside her. We were here yesterday. We should have gotten lost, right? Qi Tianhui said disdainfully, what nonsense are you talking about? We were clearly walking forward, how could we be lost? Moreover, the ruins on both sides are similar. How do you know that this is the place we passed by yesterday? Everyone followed Yun Chuzhou's finger and looked over. Indeed, they saw a vivid picture of a little bastard on a broken wall. Everyone was dumbfounded. Even if they did not look closely, they knew that this little bastard was definitely not left behind. It must have been drawn by Yun Chuzhou. After all, no one would be idle enough to draw a little bastard on the wall to play with. So, they were really lost. However, they had been walking along the street, how could they be lost? Zhuang Shichen looked at Yun Chuzhou with some inquiry. Did she accidentally or intentionally mark the wall? However, the most important thing now was to get rid of the dilemma of being lost. However, how could they get rid of it? He looked up at the sun and said, I remember that the levitation layer is in the west. We will determine the direction according to the sun and not stick to these streets. Everyone immediately nodded in agreement and set off again. This time, when Yun Chuzhou went to the ruins again, although everyone was still dissatisfied, they did not say anything. After all, if Yun Chuzhou had not gone to the ruins earlier, they would still be walking in circles. Chapter 50-27 Wine. After walking for a while in the direction of the sun, they found that there was something strange about the streets here. They looked horizontal and vertical, but in fact, they were not. If they followed the direction of the streets, they would unknowingly turn in circles. They also found that as the journey progressed, the pavilions on both sides of the road were more and more intact. Although it was also very dilapidated, at least the original general structure could still be seen, unlike the previous ones, which were only left with broken walls. However, the group no longer had the courage to go in and search for it. Although the treasure was good, life was more important. Yun Chuzhou did not care about that. Whichever house was pleasing to the eye, she would go in and take a look. Although they did not find any treasure, they managed to gather a large amount of rubbish and even removed a door plank from the house. Qi Tianhui wanted to throw a tantrum a few times, but he was stopped by Zhuang Shichen. Brother Qi, although Yun Chuzhou is wandering around inside, she can catch up to us every time. She did not delay our progress, so let's not argue with her. Zhuang Shichen felt that Yun Chuzhou was not simple. He might as well see what she wanted to do. Moreover, it was not too late to kill her after they found the enchantment. They had already traveled for 3 days, but they were still quite a distance away from the levitation layer. Everyone could not help but sigh at the magnificence of this supreme city. One could imagine how prosperous this supreme city was when it was prosperous back then. Yun Chuzhou saw a dilapidated wine stall hanging at the entrance of a pavilion next to them. She could not help but raise her eyebrows. Could this place be a restaurant? TSK, a restaurant of the celestial race. She had to go in and take a look. Thus, this guy once again went into the pavilion. Everyone was already used to her going in to collect junk from time to time. They ignored her and continued to move forward. Anyway, after she finished digging, she would be able to catch up with them. After Yun Chuzhou entered, she found that although it was very dilapidated inside, she could vaguely tell that there were counters and scattered tables. It seemed like it really was a restaurant. Since it was a restaurant, there should be good wine. Therefore, this guy ran to the backyard and rummaged through it. He then let out the peach blossoms to smell. It really let her find an extremely hidden underground wine cellar. When this guy saw that the wine cellar was filled with wine jars, he was so happy that his eyelashes were almost blooming. Damn, this wine was at least tens of thousands of years old. He was rich. The more he thought about it, the happier he became. He walked in front of a jar, carefully opened the wine seal on it, and then he was miserable. This wine was originally very fragrant and mellow. In addition to the fact that it had been sealed for such a long time, the smell of the wine inside had already become so strong that it was almost solid. Hei Shinjo, who had a poor tolerance for alcohol, passed out just like that. The peach blossom choked and passed out. If the small silver snake in his sleeve was not injured, the smell of alcohol would not have affected him. However, he was severely injured and had a snake body, so he was dizzy. Although he struggled hard, he still passed out. Mu Zian and the others realized that Yun Chujiu did not follow them. Although they were reluctant, they still sent people back to check. Lan Luofang originally wanted to follow them, but Lan Luoshan asked Lan Luofang and Mu Zian to say something. Mu Zian sent people to stop Lan Luofang. Because the wine cellar was very hidden, the people sent to look around did not find Yun Chujiu, so they went back to report. Mu Zian and the others were in a hurry to go to the levitation layer, so after a discussion, they decided not to care about Yun Chujiu's life. Lan Luofang was forced by the crowd, so she could only follow them and continue their journey. She hoped that Yun Chujiu would be safe and sound. Chapter 50-28. In the next 2 days, Mu Zian and the others' journey was considered smooth. Although the number of wild beasts that came to attack at night had increased, they had the advantage of numbers. It was not too strenuous and there were no casualties. That night, everyone found a place to temporarily camp. Qi Tianhui said with a slightly happy expression, "Tomorrow night, we should be able to reach the bottom of the levitation layer. It seems that this supreme city is not as terrifying as we imagined." Zhuang Shichen said with some disapproval, "Brother Qi, don't be too optimistic. It was said that the wild beasts in the levitation layer were much more terrifying than the wild beasts on the streets. Moreover, not only were there wild beasts, there were also many strange things. We cannot let down our guard." Qi Tianhui snorted coldly, "What are you afraid of? At worst, we can let the Lan family take the lead. It's just a pity that Yun Chujiu is already dead. It's too good for her." Zhuang Shichen frowned. Yun Chujiu might not be dead. Maybe she went somewhere else. That's impossible. She's not a fool. Supreme City is so dangerous. If she acts alone, she'll be courting death, Mu Zian said from the side. She was sure that Yun Chujiu must have met with an accident. She really deserved it. Zhuang Shichen did not say anything more when he saw the two of them say so. However, he felt that Yun Chujiu was not simple. How could she die so silently? There must be something else going on. At this moment, everyone from the Lan family was sitting together with different expressions. Lan Luofang was worried about Yun Chujiu's safety and had a worried expression on her face. Lan Luoyen, on the other hand, had a gloating expression on her face. From time to time, she would use words to mock Lan Luofang. Lan Luofang had learned to be smart now. No matter how Lan Luofang provoked her, she would not respond. She was alone now and did not have little Jiu to support her. It was better for her to endure it first. Lan Lushan's lips curled into a cold smile as she mocked in her heart. A bunch of idiots. At this moment, the ground began to tremble slightly. Everyone stood up in shock. What was going on? A moment later, someone pointed into the distance in horror. There. There are a lot of wild beasts. Everyone looked in the direction of his finger. Although the night was dark, they could still see several huge beast eyes that were flashing with a scarlet light. Everyone felt a chill under their feet. They did not have time to think and ran in the opposite direction of the beast group. They were afraid that if they were half a step slower, they would be caught by the wild beasts. The wild beasts behind them let out all kinds of strange cries. It was simply creepy. What made everyone even more desperate was that they did not run far before they realized that there were also several wild beasts blocking them not far away. Immediately, a Zhuang family disciple jumped into the pavilion that he was pointing at. Immediately after, there was a scream. Only then did everyone realize to their horror that the pavilion had already turned into a lizard wild beast. Not only that, the surrounding pavilions had also turned into 5 lizard wild beasts in an instant. Immediately, someone broke down and shouted, "It's over. We're dead." Everyone's faces turned extremely pale. They roughly looked at the more than 30 wild beasts blocking them from the front and back. No matter what, they had no way to kill so many wild beasts. Could it be that they could only wait for death? Mu Zian said coldly, "Time is tight. The Lan family is in charge of delaying the 3 lizard-like beasts in the north. The 3 of us will focus on dealing with the 3 lizard-like beasts in the south, trying to open up a breakthrough." When the Lan family heard this, their faces turned pale. Were they planning to abandon them? Chapter 50-29 You are the White Maiden. Even though the Lan family knew that the odds were stacked against them, they did not dare to disobey. After all, only the Mu family could open an opening for them to escape. They could only brace themselves to deal with the 3 lizard beasts in the north. Lan Luoshan and Lan Luohan looked at each other. Lan Luoshan shook her head vaguely and the 2 of them joined the battle. Fortunately, the Lan family members had seen the attacking methods of the lizard beasts before. After setting up the spiritual energy shield, they were not afraid of their venom for a short period of time. They just needed to avoid being entangled by their tongues. On the other side, Mu Zian and the others used their full strength to deal with the 3 lizard beasts in the south. Mu Zian, Qi Tianhui, and Zhuang Shichen were the targets that their families focused on nurturing. Naturally, they had many good things. They did not have time to hide anymore and took them out one by one. In addition, everyone was in a hurry to escape, and their potential was greater than usual. They actually killed 3 lizard beasts within a short period of time. Once the gap opened, everyone ran forward desperately, afraid that the other beasts would catch up to them. The Lan family members also followed closely behind. Fortunately, the lizard beasts were not fast, so they were able to escape and catch up with the Mu family members. Even though they knew that the other 3 families did not have good intentions towards them, if they left them, they would only die in Supreme City. At this moment, Lan Luomu faintly hoped that Yun Chuzhou was still alive. After all, when Yun Chuzhou was still around, their situation was not so passive. However, was she still alive? Of course, He Xinjiu was alive. However, at this moment, this fellow was throwing a tantrum. On that day, Yun Chuzhou and the others were drunk from the smell of alcohol. A moment ago, the silver snake was the first to wake up. After he woke up, he crawled out of Yun Chujia's sleeve and called Yun Chuzhou a few times. However, Yun Chuzhou was too drunk to wake up. The silver snake had no choice but to bite the back of this guy's hand, which woke He Xinjiu up from the pain. Before He Xinjiu opened her eyes, she cursed, "Damn it, which bastard dares to bite me?" A certain being, Yun Chuzhou opened her eyes and saw the silver snake coiled around her wrist. She picked it up and threw it into the wine vat. "You stinky snake! I told you to bite me. I'll kill you. I'll kill you." The certain being was so angry that he almost fainted. He shouted loudly, "Ugly girl, stop! Are you crazy?" Hearing that, Yun Chuzhou stopped moving and looked at the small silver snake in her hand in confusion. Then, she giggled foolishly. As he spoke, he started singing, by Suzhen at the foot of Qingqing Mountain, cultivating in the cave for 1,000 years. Di Baiming was so angry that his head was buzzing. What snake demon, what lady Bai? Was this ugly girl crazy or stupid? As he was fuming with anger, he heard Yun Chuzhou shout, "Ah, I remember now. You are not a snake demon, you are my gigolo." Di Baiming finally heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that. Fortunately, he had returned to normal. However, he was obviously happy too early because he heard Yun Chujio continue, "Gigolo, hee, I heard that there are 2 snakes. Let me take a look." The silver snake immediately stiffened and used all its strength to break free from Yun Chujio's hand. Fortunately, Yun Chujio was drunk and did not have much strength. Otherwise, the small silver snake would be in a tragic situation. Chapter 50:30 Snake Wine. The small silver snake was embarrassed and angry, but it knew that it could not reason with Yun Chujio at the moment. It was just that it was a snake now, so it could not use the storage ring. Otherwise, it could use cold water to sober up the ugly thing. The small silver snake looked around. There was almost nothing else in the wine cellar except for the wine jar. How could it sober up the ugly girl? Just as the little silver snake was worrying, he saw Hei Shinjo staggering towards him and reaching out to grab him. The little silver snake had no choice but to dodge desperately in the wine cellar. "Little boy, don't run. Come, I'm very gentle. I won't hurt you," Hei Shinjo said slyly. The little silver snake naturally wouldn't believe her nonsense. He made up his mind that he would never let this guy drink wine again. Hei Shinjo caught the silver snake for a while, but she did not catch it. Instead, she tripped over the wine jar. The guy blinked his eyes and started crying. "Gigolo, my gigolo has run away. Woo-woo, why do I always have to be separated from the gigolo? Why can't the gigolo stay by my side? Woo-woo, I remember now. The gigolo has lost his memory. The gigolo doesn't love me anymore. I finally saved the gigolo, but he forgot about me. You white-eyed snake. You snake shimmy. You heartless snake, woo-woo, my heart hurts so much. My heart is about to break into pieces. I'm most likely going to die." The silver snake heard Yun Chujio's words and saw the tears rolling down Yun Chujio's face. It felt a throbbing pain in its heart and could not help but jump to her side. "Ugly girl, are you alright?" However, the next moment, he was held in Hei Xinjia's hand. "Ha! You stupid snake, you've been tricked, haven't you? Miss is going to check your body now. Don't be afraid." The silver snake was so angry that it almost died. This ugly girl was still full of evil when she was drunk. She was completely evil. It wanted to struggle, but Yun Chujio was obviously on guard. It struggled a few times, but could not break free. There was only one thought in its mind. It was over. It was going to lose its moral integrity. Hei Shinjo did not care what he thought. She said proudly, "Little guy, run. Let's see where you can run to this time." The guy was holding the head of the silver snake with one hand and the tail of the silver snake with the other. At the critical moment, the guy suddenly became a bit shy and gritted his teeth. "I need to drink some wine to boost my courage." Thus, this fellow squatted on the ground and lowered his head to drink the wine in the jar. Then, this fellow was miserable. Previously, just the smell of alcohol alone could make her pass out, and the wine in this jar was extremely rich. This fellow had just taken a sip when he once again passed out with his face facing the sky. The miserable silver snake was accidentally thrown into the wine jar. The silver snake's heart was like a dog's. Would he, a dignified overlord, become the snake in the snake wine? The silver snake hurriedly held its breath. It crawled out of the wine jar with great difficulty, but it had more or less absorbed the smell of alcohol. It was so miserable that it passed out. Before it passed out, a certain lord once again made up his mind. He was determined not to let the ugly girl drink again, even if it was the wedding night. When he thought of the wedding night, he remembered Tang Yuan, and 2 bloodlines appeared on his nose. Chapter 50:31 Rope Ladder. Hei Shinjo was sleeping soundly in the wine cellar, while Mu Zian and the others were desperately trying to escape. Several wild beasts were chasing closely behind them, and the sky-shaking roars made people's hair stand on end in the middle of the night. The group did not bother to distinguish their direction and just ran forward, afraid that they would be caught by the wild beasts if they were half a step slower. The group originally thought that the wild beasts would disappear as usual at daybreak, but they were disappointed. Even though the sun was high up in the sky, the wild beasts had no intention of hiding. They continued to chase after them crazily. Zhuang Shichen panted as he said, "We can't go on like this. Even if we're tired, we'll die of exhaustion. We should run towards the west. After we enter the levitation layer, we might be able to catch our breath." The others did not have any objections and immediately followed him to run towards the west. Among these people, Lan Luofang's spiritual power was the lowest, so she gradually fell behind. She saw the approaching wild beast, and her heart was filled with panic. Her spiritual power was basically exhausted, and she could not run anymore. She took out pills to replenish her spiritual power and stuffed them into her mouth, but the amount of spiritual power she could replenish was really limited. There was no way to increase the distance between her and the wild beast. Was she going to die here? It would be great if little Jiu was here. She would definitely have a way to escape. When she thought of Yun Chuzhou, her heart skipped a beat. Yun Chuzhou had once stuffed a few bottles of pills into her mouth. The labels on the bottles were crooked. Some were for detoxification, some were for stopping bleeding, and some were for replenishing her spiritual power. Lan Luofang did not have time to think too much. She took out the bottle that was labeled for replenishing her spiritual power, poured out a pill, and stuffed it into her mouth. The medicinal pill melted in her mouth, and in an instant, spiritual power was injected into her dantian. Lan Luofang was overjoyed, and immediately used all her strength to chase after the people in front of her. Only then did Lan Luofang realize that the medicinal pill that she had swallowed previously actually had golden patterns. She had never heard of medicinal pills with golden patterns. Where did little Jiu get it from? Everyone had originally thought that Lan Luofang would definitely die in the end. Who would have thought that Lan Luofang would actually be able to catch up to her alive? Moreover, it seemed that her physical strength and spiritual power were very abundant. Everyone thought that Jia Shi had given her some high-grade spiritual power replenishing pill, so they didn't have much doubt. Finally, everyone arrived at the bottom of the levitating layer. When they saw the towering, imposing buildings in front of them, they were all overjoyed. It was said that there was a square outside the first level of the levitation layer. It was relatively safe up there. As long as they could reach that square, they would have some time to catch their breath. However, even the first level of the levitation layer was more than 100 feet above the ground. It was also forbidden to fly here. If they wanted to climb up, they could only climb up a rope ladder that hung down from above. The worst thing was that the pack of wild beasts had already caught up. Qi Tianhui and Zhuang Shichen followed closely behind. The Mu family and the other two families also squeezed to the front, leaving the Lan family members at the outermost edge. The Lan family members were angry and resentful. However, they knew that even if they did not listen to Mu Zian and forcefully climbed up the rope ladder, they would still be killed by the other three families when they reached the top. Those wild beasts stared at them with their scarlet eyes as they got closer and closer. Lan Luoshan and Lan Luohan looked at each other. Lan Luoshan fiercely pushed Lan Luoyen in front of her while Lan Luohan pushed Lan Luoji in front of him. Then, the two of them jumped towards the rope ladder. Chapter 50-32 had no place to stand. Lan Luoyen and Lan Luoji were pushed several feet away. Fortunately, they had set up their spiritual energy shields in time. Otherwise, they would have been poisoned to death by the lizard beast at the front. The two of them rolled and climbed up. They turned around and ran. The other members of the Lan family had already reached the bottom of the rope ladder. However, Lan Luoshan and Lan Luohan pulled the rope ladder up after they climbed up. Lan Luoshan held the rope ladder in her hand and said to Mu Zian, who was still in shock, "Sister Zian, this way, the wild beasts will not be able to climb up the rope ladder." Mu Zian's expression changed a few times. Just as she was about to say something, Zhuang Shichen said, "What Miss Luoshan said makes sense. If we don't put away the rope ladder, it will be bad if the smaller wild beasts climb up." Mu Zian didn't say anything else, but Qi Tianhui said, "TSK, the two of you are really ruthless. In order to survive, you don't even care about the lives of your companions." Lan Luohan's eyes were slightly cold. Lan Luoshan gently tugged at him and said gently, "We are also looking at the big picture. There's nothing we can do about it." Qi Tianhui curled his lips and didn't say anything. Anyway, the lives of the Lan family members had nothing to do with him. As for these two people, they would be their scapegoats sooner or later. The Lan family members naturally hated Lan Luohan and Lan Luoshan to death. However, the most important thing now was to escape. However, dozens of wild beasts had blocked all the directions. They had no way to escape. Lan Luomu gritted his teeth and took out a few packets of medicinal powder. "Everyone hold your breath and raise your spiritual energy shields." Everyone was now like a grasshopper on a rope. If one more person lived, they would have more strength. Therefore, Lan Luomu specially reminded everyone. Everyone held their breath and raised their spiritual energy shields. Lan Luomu threw the powder at the wild beasts. The poison powder was bought by the second elder at a high price. He specially gave it to Lan Luomu so that he could use it to save his life. Lan Luomu felt that although the poison powder might not be able to kill the wild beasts, it could at least give them a chance to escape. However, he never dreamed that the poison powder would have no effect on the wild beasts. Instead, it angered the wild beasts. Lan Luomu was instantly dumbfounded. At this moment, Lan Luofang shouted, "Watch me." Following her voice, Lan Luofang threw out a few large sacks. These were also given to her by Yun Chujiu, and they were filled with chili noodles. The wild beasts thought that Lan Luofang was still throwing poison, so they used their claws to slap the sacks with disdain. The chili noodles in the sacks instantly flew in all directions. The wild beasts choked and cried. The Lan family members didn't have time to think about it. They took advantage of the gap between the wild beasts and ran out. Lan Luma's heart was like a dog crying. The poison he bought at a high price was useless, but Lan Luofang's chili powder was very effective. It was like seeing a ghost. When the people on the levitating layer saw that the Lan family members had actually used the chili powder to escape, they were all dumbfounded. However, they felt that even if the Lan family members escaped temporarily, it would be useless. Those wild beasts would eat them sooner or later. Lan Luomu and the others ran as fast as they could because they knew that once those wild beasts recovered, they would definitely intensify their pursuit and kill them. However, where could they escape to? The rope ladder on the levitating layer had been pulled up. They had no way to go up at all. The surface streets were full of danger, and there was no place for them in the great city. Chapter 50-33, "We're going to find little Jiu." Lan Luofang suddenly said, "We're going to find little Jiu. Only little Jiu can save us." "What nonsense are you talking about? Yun Chujiu is already dead. Where are we going to find her?" Lan Luoyen said angrily. However, because it was Lan Luofang who saved everyone this time, she liked Lan Luofang a little. Lan Luofang said with certainty, "Little Jiu is so smart that she won't die. Something must have gone wrong. Let's go to the house where she went missing and we will definitely find clues." Lan Luocheng snorted coldly, "Let's not talk about whether she is still alive or not. This place is 3 days away from the house where she went missing. I'm afraid we won't live until then." Lan Luofang bit her lip. "No matter what, I have to go back and look for little Jiu. If it weren't for little Jiu, we wouldn't be able to leave this place alive." After saying that, Lan Luofang directly ran in the direction she came from. Lan Luomu and Lan Luoji looked at each other and chased after Lan Luofang. Seeing this, the others could only follow her. Now, they could only try their best. However, everyone's physical strength and spiritual power were limited after all. After running for a while, they could not run anymore. Although the wild beasts slowed down slightly, their physical strength was much better than theirs. The distance between them was getting shorter and shorter. Lan Luofang recalled that Yun Chujiu had burned the fox wild beast to death. She felt that these wild beasts should be afraid of fire, so she said to everyone, "We passed through the house. Lan Luoyen, you are in charge of setting the fire. Perhaps you can stop them for a while." Lan Luofang's words were now a life-saving straw. Lan Luoyen was not in the mood to disagree with her, so she immediately transformed into a fire butterfly. The fire butterfly already had some initial intelligence. It specially picked some combustible things to light up. In an instant, the house they entered was on fire. Those wild beasts seemed to be afraid of the fire, so they hesitated. Some of them even tried their best to spray poison on the volcano, as if they wanted to put out the fire. Everyone was overjoyed. No matter what, they could at least slow down the speed of these wild beasts. However, they did not dare to set a large area on fire. After all, if the fire spread too far, they would also be burned to death. Thus, the Lan family members set fire to the restaurant where Yun Chujiu disappeared. Lan Luofang, I told you, that Yun Chujiu is definitely dead. Lan Luoyen muttered. Lan Luofang shook her head. Little Jiu was full of evil. Even if she died, she wouldn't die so quietly. She definitely wasn't dead. However, how did this person disappear into thin air? At this moment, everyone heard someone say carelessly, "Lan Luoyen, who did you say was dead? Are you asking for a beating again?" Everyone followed the voice and looked over. Who was the one who spoke, if not Yun Chujiu? However, how did she appear out of thin air? Hei Xinjiu naturally did not appear out of thin air. 3 days ago, after this fellow passed out from being drunk again, the little silver snake also passed out due to nosebleeds. As the wine was too strong, even though Hei Xinjiu only took a sip, she slept for 3 days. As the little silver snake was thrown into the wine jar, it struggled to get out, but it was still very drunk. Fortunately, Peach Blossom was only drunk from the smell of alcohol. When the Lan family came in, Peach Blossom was awakened. Peach Blossom together call with drag, finally Hei Xinjiu to wake up. Chapter 50-34 took action. One was worth 2, Master, use some water to wake yourself up. Someone is coming. Peach Blossom said with her spiritual sense. As she had slept for a long time this time, Hei Xinjiu was clearer than before. She immediately poured a basin of cold water on herself and shivered a few times. She felt much more awake. When she saw the small silver snake lying beside the wine jar, the corner of her eyes twitched because she saw 2 dried blood stains under the nose of the small silver snake. Hei Xinjiu had been too drunk before, so she had no impression of her crazy drinking behavior. When she saw the small silver snake like this, she cursed in her heart, "Pooey. Could this pervert have taken advantage of her drunkenness to do something immoral?" However, she had no time to settle the score with Beiming now. She put the peach blossom into her spirit beast bag, the small silver snake into her sleeve bag, and then put all the wine in the wine cellar into her storage ring. However, this fellow discovered that most of the wine jars in the wine cellar were empty. This fellow almost died from anger. She thought that she had struck it rich, but it turned out to be an empty joy. Fortunately, some of the jars were full, or else she would have cried herself to death. This wine cellar was hidden under a room. Yun Chujiu tilted her ear to listen for the sounds outside. When she heard that it was the Lan family, she heaved a sigh of relief in her heart, and only then did she reveal herself. When Lan Luofang saw Yun Chujiu, she could not help but be surprised and happy. She ran over and grabbed Yun Chujiu's arm. "Little Jiu, it's great that you're all right." Lan Luoyen pouted and muttered, "Sure enough, a scourge lives for 1,000 years. Yun Chujiu could not be bothered with her. She asked, "Are you guys back to look for me? Where are the others?" This fellow did not know that she had slept for a few days. She thought that she had only slept for a short while. When she heard Lan Luofang's story, she realized that she had been drunk for a few days. Just when she was in a daze, Lan Luoyen sniffed. Why is there such a strong smell of alcohol? Lan Luoyen sniffed and her gaze fell on Yunchujiu. Good. Yunchujiu, you've been hiding and drinking these few days. You're our captain. Are you worthy of our ancestors' trust? Yunchujiu touched her nose guiltily. Even though she had changed into a new set of clothes, the wine in the wine cellar was too strong, so it was still stained with the smell of alcohol. To be honest, she did not expect to be drunk for so many days just by opening the wine jar. This time, she was careless. However, this guy wanted to lose without losing, so he snorted and said, "Now you admit that I'm the captain?" "That's not what you said before." Yunchujiu decided to redeem herself as the captain. She waved her claws and said, "You guys run first. I'll hold them off." Lan Luofang said worriedly, "Little Jiu, there are more than 30 wild beasts. Can you handle them?" Don't worry. The captain will take care of them. You guys run first. If I can't handle them, I will chase after you." Yunchujiu said heroically. Lan Luoyen curled her lips. No matter what, this Yunchujiu was at least much stronger than that damn Lan Luoshan. That bitch. She thought she was a good person, but in the end, she actually stabbed them in the back. If there was a chance, she would definitely kill that bitch. Immediately, the Lan family members ran away in a hurry, leaving only He Xinjiu alone. He Xinjiu jumped onto the wall, nibbling on a meat bun while looking at the approaching wild beasts in the distance with a smile. Chapter 50-35, Gowei Butsao. Seeing the beasts getting closer and closer, Yunchujiu waved her claws and said, "Stop. All of you, stop right now. Otherwise, I won't be polite." The beasts were very angry because they hadn't been able to catch up to Lan Luofang and the others. Now that they saw Yunchujiu threatening them shamelessly, they were instantly enraged. The wild beasts let out all kinds of horrifying cries and pounced on He Xinjiu. He Xinjiu shouted, "Stop. All of you, stop. I have something important to tell you." One of the wild beasts said sinisterly, "Jia jia, something important? Eating you is the most important thing. Prepare to die." "Don't, I really have something important to tell you. There are so many of you, are you only afraid of me?" Yunchujiu said with a smile. The wild beast snorted. "Okay, tell me. What is it?" Yunchujiu curled her lips. "Listen carefully. The important thing is that you are too ugly. Too ugly. But it's true. You don't have a mirror. Otherwise, how would you have the courage to live?" The wild beasts were almost angered to death. They roared and pounced on Yunchujiu. He Xinjiu directly jumped onto the top of the wall of another house. As she ran, she shouted, "Idiot! Ugly monster! Chase me! Come, chase me!" Those wild beasts naturally would not let her go. They chased after her relentlessly. Yunchujiu deliberately led this group of demonic beasts away from the direction where the Lan family members were escaping. This fellow ran as he pondered. Mu Zian and the others had already reached the levitating layer. She had to quickly clean up these wild beasts so that the good things would not be snatched away by Mu Zian and the others. Sigh, as expected, drinking makes things worse. I'll never drink again. Not only did I delay the proper business, I even let the gigolo take advantage of me. What a huge loss. If a certain someone knew what this guy was thinking, he would probably be fuming with anger. Take advantage of me? His integrity was almost ruined in her hands, okay? Yunchujiu felt that she was far enough from Lan Luofang and the rest, so she stopped and said to the group of wild beasts, "You really don't know what's good for you. You actually dare to chase me? Today, I'll let you see my Gowei Butsao." Gowei Butsao proudly shook its leaves, thinking to itself, let's see. Gold will shine sooner or later. Now that the stupid girl knows how powerful it is, she hurriedly released it. Actually, Goei Batsao was thinking too much. Although Goei Batsao had displayed its brute strength last time, Hei Shinjo did not have too much hope for it. After all, these wild beasts were not those motionless stones, so Goei Batsao might not be able to gain any advantage. The reason why it was let out was to divert the attention of the wild beasts, so that she could use small flames to sneak attack. However, Goei Batsao did not know. This fellow was feeling pretty good now. It was waving its leaves so hard that they were about to fly away. Yun Chujo saw how cocky it was and could not help but twitch the corner of her mouth. She scolded, "Don't be so cocky. Go on. Whip them all away." After saying that, Yun Chujo hid behind Goei Batsao and prepared to launch a sneak attack. Goei Batsao felt that it was not appropriate for it to send these wild beasts flying in a rough manner. Therefore, it decided to make a beautiful pose, such as a white crane flapping its wings. However, this fellow did not notice that Hei Shinjo was hiding behind it. She was in a good position, and Hei Shinjo was also sent flying by it. Moreover, the direction of the flying was coincidentally in the middle of the wild beasts. Chapter 50-36. It was in trouble. There was only one thought in Hei Xinjia's mind. She wanted to tear that damned Goei Batsao into pieces. Goei Batsao was also dumbfounded. It was over. It was in trouble. It was in big trouble. It was 80% certain that it would not be able to see the sun tomorrow. Goei Batsao wanted to save Hei Shinjo, but the distance was too far. It had no way of using its leaves to catch Inchujo. The group of wild beasts were also dumbfounded. Was this brat's spiritual beast having a stroke? Why would it help them take care of that brat? No matter what, this brat was dead meat. Several wild beasts opened their mouths wide and stretched out their claws, ready to swallow Hei Shinjo, who had fallen down. However, Yun Chujo did not fall down. Instead, a few sacks of chili noodles fell down. Although the wild beasts had suffered a loss once, they were still caught in the crossfire. Each and every one of them was choked with tears and tears. It turned out that at the critical moment, Yun Chujo had an idea. She threw out a sticky thread and wrapped it around a protruding piece of wood in the pavilion next to her. Only then did she not fall into the herd of wild beasts. Goei Batsao saw that Yun Chujo was safe and sound, and it heaved a sigh of relief in its heart. With the intention of atoning for its sins, it did not care about its posture anymore. It began to use its leaves to whip the wild beasts. As the wild beasts were snot-covered with tears due to the chili, they were not aware of it. A few wild beasts were hit by the leaves of Goei Batsao, and their huge bodies were instantly sent flying. However, after the wild beasts regained their senses, Goei Batsao was not as relaxed. The Goei Batsao quickly dimmed and then dissipated. The strange grass in its dantian was secretly resentful. If it had not condensed 2 drops of juice for that fiend, how could it be afraid of these dregs? Most importantly, it had caused trouble this time. That black-hearted little girl would definitely not let it off. Why was its life so miserable? Seeing that the Goei Batsao had dissipated, Yun Chujo condensed her spiritual power again and released it. Although this fellow's brain was not very good, it had brute force and could be of help. They raised all the pavilions next to them to the ground, so that Yun Chujo had no place to hide. Yun Chujo immediately released all the dumb cuties. Training soldiers for 1,000 days and using soldiers for a while, these foodies should also make a contribution. The silly cuties took the lead one by one, especially the little salamander. It wanted to show off in front of the peach blossoms and crush butt face, so it was working hard. Although it was forbidden to fly here, and the little salamander could only fly about 30 feet high, those beasts seemed to be more afraid of fire-type attacks. The little salamander was like a fish in water. But Face secretly hid in the distance and watched, cursing in his heart. If it didn't use its cultivation to transform into a physical form, how would this little bug be able to show off here? Just wait and see. Sooner or later, Butt-Face would blind his and the female's snobbish eyes. Hei Shinjo did not stay idle either. She constantly used heavenly lightning, small flames, and purple needles to launch sneak attacks. The wild beasts seemed to be quite afraid of Yunchuji's methods. In addition to the silly cuties and the perverted Guai Chao, they gradually had the intention to retreat. Therefore, after a few wild beasts were killed, the rest of the wild beasts fled in panic. Yunchujo did not chase after them. It was not like she had to kill them. The most important thing now was to hurry to the levitation layer. Yunchujo put away the silly beasts. She thought for a while and released the giant rabbit. Then, she rode the rabbit to find Lan Luofang and the others. Chapter 50-37. Even if the wall was not convinced, she would still be convinced. Hei Shinjo sat on the giant rabbit and began to curse at the Guai Chao in her dantian. Go Wei Ba, I didn't realize that you were so cunning. You want to kill me, you ungrateful grass. I thought you had changed, but you are still the same. Just you wait, I won't forgive you. Guai Chao formed its leaves into the shape of a heart and kept begging for mercy. If it was not for the fact that its roots could not move, it would have knelt down and begged for mercy. In all conscience, it just wanted to pose like a badass. Who would have thought that it would send this wretched girl flying? If it had known this would happen, it would not have been so smug. Hei Shinjo cursed fiercely again before temporarily letting go of Guai Chao. Of course, she also knew that Guai Chao must have done it unintentionally. After all, no matter how stupid it was, it would not do such a stupid thing. However, Go Wei Ba tail was getting more and more floaty. She had to teach it a lesson. Hei Shinjo did not know that there was a mini Go Wei Butsao lying on her hair at this moment. It was waving its small leaves arrogantly. It was simply happy. Last time, Guai Chao had saved up a small amount of money and wanted to take a stroll outside. However, in order to break Di Baiming's white seal, it had used up all its spiritual power. Now that this guy had saved up a lot of money, he naturally would not let go of this good opportunity. Therefore, after Yunchujo withdrew her spiritual power, this guy pretended to disappear, but in fact, he became very small and hid in Hei Xinjia's hair. Hei Shinjo knew nothing about this. She quickly found Lan Luofang and the others on the giant rabbit. Although Lan Luofang and the others were far away, they could still vaguely hear the loud noise. They could not help but worry for Yunchujo. Even Lan Luoyen was a little worried. It was not that she had changed her opinion of Yunchujo, but she now saw Hei Shinjo as a life-saving straw, so she naturally did not want anything to happen to her. When everyone saw Hei Shinjo coming over on a rabbit, they could not help but heave a sigh of relief. However, when they saw this guy's strange mount, their faces froze. What the hell was this thing? A rabbit? There did not seem to be such a large demonic rabbit species in the Chongshao continent, right? Little Joe, where are the wild beasts? Lan Luofang asked. They were all beaten away by this captain. Let's go, they won't dare to come back for a while. Yunchujo said smugly. The others didn't say anything and immediately followed Yunchujo to the floating layer. Yunchujo saw that all of them were exhausted and asked, "Don't you have any spirit beasts to carry you?" Lan Luofang and the others all shook their heads. The cultivators of the heavy cloud continent paid attention to their own cultivation and rarely relied on external things, so most people didn't have any spirit pets. Yunchujo curled her lips. You guys are really poor. How about this, I can rent out spiritual beasts to you for 10,000 high-grade spirit stones a day. Are you guys going to rent them out? Everyone, they were all convinced by how greedy they were. If even the wall was not convinced, they would be convinced by her. However, they were all so tired that they were about to smoke. Not to mention 10,000 high-grade spirit stones, even 100,000 was something they were willing to give up. Thus, they all agreed. Yun Chujo immediately got Mao Qiu to pick 7 relatively fast and large snowstorm-back wolves from the Great Void Mystic Realm. After the contract was signed, she handed them over to Lan Luofang and the others. Although the grade of the snowstorm-back wolves was not high, it was not a problem to use them as a means of transportation. Lan Luofang and the others did not have the time to nitpick that the grade of the spirit beasts was too low. One by one, they climbed onto the back of the wolves and began to meditate. Chapter 50-38 Are You in Love with Me? With their spiritual pets, Lan Luofang and the others could rest and not delay their journey. They could not help but feel a little emotional. It seemed that the old ancestor had a reason to let Yun Chujo, the troublemaker, be the team leader. Yun Chujo had passed out from being drunk for a few days, so she was not sleepy at all. She hummed a little song and led the way. Seeing that Lan Luofang and the others were already asleep, she took out the small silver snake from her sleeve pocket. Seeing that the small silver snake had not woken up yet, she poked his head with her hand and muttered, "You pervert. I'll teach you a lesson when you wake up." At this moment, the small silver snake's vertical pupils opened. Its cold and fierce gaze almost scared He Xinjiu so much that she fell off the rabbit. The snake pretended to be calm and said, "Why are you staring at me? Tell me, did you take advantage of me after I passed out?" A certain lord was amused when he heard that. "Ugly girl, don't you know what you have done? If you don't have a good taste in alcohol, don't drink like others. You are not allowed to touch a single drop of alcohol in the future." Yun Chujo blinked her eyes. What did she do? She didn't do anything. Humph. Stop calling me a thief. Let me ask you, why is your nose bleeding again? Did you take advantage of me when I was drunk? A certain someone was so angry that he was about to explode. Take advantage of her? He was the one who was almost raped, okay? A certain someone wanted to tell her the good deed that He Xinjiu did when she was drunk, but it was a little hard to say. Finally, he squeezed out a sentence from between his teeth, "What about the matter of you throwing me into the wine jar?" He Xinjiu was stunned at first, then she burst into laughter and almost fell off the giant rabbit's back. This guy's laughter woke Lan Luofang and the others up. Lan Luofang asked in confusion, "Little Jiu, why are you laughing? What happened?" Yun Chujo finally stopped laughing and said, it's nothing. I just remembered something interesting. You guys go back to sleep and rest up. We still have a tough battle to fight." Lan Luoyen mumbled, "Crazy," and went back to sleep. The others also shook their heads helplessly and fell asleep one after another. "You mean that I almost turned you into a snake in the snake wine? Ha, this joke is enough for me to laugh at for the rest of my life." A certain being, He Xinjiu, chuckled a few times in a low voice before she was stunned. "That's not right. Then why is your nose bleeding?" A certain being's body stiffened slightly before he replied coldly, "I knocked it in the wine jar." He Xinjiu did not know that a certain being had actually learned how to open his eyes and lie. It was rare for this fellow to feel a little pain in his conscience. He used his hand to gently stroke the small silver snake's head. "I'm sorry. I promise I won't drink anymore. Actually, it's not my fault this time. Who knew that just the smell of alcohol could make people drunk?" Seeing that he had been fooled, a certain venerable heaved a sigh of relief and quickly changed the topic. "It's good that you know. What do you plan to do next?" "No matter what, we have to enter the levitation layer first. Otherwise, we won't be able to find the enchantment and will be trapped here," said Yun Chujo. "The levitation layer should be more dangerous. You have to be more careful," Di Biming instructed. Are you concerned about me? Are you attracted by my beauty and wisdom? So you fell in love with me?" He Xinjiu said slyly. Chapter 50-39 Do you have a way to get up there? The small silver snake's body suddenly turned pink and snorted coldly, "Don't flatter yourself. I was just afraid that you would implicate me if something happened to you." "Oh, so that's how it is. It seems that I was thinking too much. That's right. I'm just a poor little girl who no one loves. I'm used to it. Hey Shinjo said in a desolate manner. A certain someone noticed Yun Chuji's depressed mood and his heart tightened. He quickly added, You don't have to say that. Actually, you're not that bad. You're still passable. Yun Chujo, you're the one who's passable. Your whole family is passable. Although she was complaining in her heart, she looked like she was about to cry and did not say anything. A certain amnesia snake naturally did not know what this fellow was up to and thought that she had really been hit by his words. He could not help but feel annoyed and anxious. Venerable one, I was just teasing you. Actually, you are very good looking, very smart, very good, a certain one stammered. Yun Chujo shook her head and said with a sobbing voice, You are lying to me. You said that I was overthinking things. Obviously, you think that I am not worthy of you. I didn't mean that. A certain someone was about to continue to explain, but he saw a flash of cunningness in Yun Chuji's eyes. He immediately understood that he had been fooled again. He was so angry that he didn't say anything. Seeing that he had been exposed, Blackheart Joe didn't feel embarrassed at all. He said with a smile, Then what do you mean? Do you think I'm very cute? Do you not want to marry me? Do you think that all the women in the world are not as good-looking as me? A certain someone did not even look at her and went back into his sleeve pocket. He was obviously angry. Yun Chujo pursed her lips. You are at Sundara. I can't control you anymore. If you want to be angry, then be angry. Anyway, you will be angry sooner or later. A certain someone thought that Yun Chujo would apologize and coax him with soft words. He did not expect Hei Shinjo to ignore him as if nothing had happened. A certain someone was so angry. However, he could not bring himself to go out again, so he could only cultivate in his sleeve pocket. He thought to himself that he would deal with this sinister and cunning ugly girl after he recovered his strength. Yun Chujo saw that the levitating layer that reached into the clouds was actually suspended in the air. She could not help but click her tongue in wonder. How did this happen? Wasn't this the legendary pavilion in the air? Moreover, these floating layers were not just 18-story pavilions. The area above was very large, and each floor was comparable to an imperial city. Yun Chujo shouted to the top, Hey, is there anyone breathing up there? No one spoke up, but that was also true. Mu Zian and the others should have already entered the floating layer. Perhaps they had already reached the second floor. Everyone looked at the levitation layer and sighed. The rope ladder had already been put away, and it was suspended in the air below. They had no way to climb up, and it was forbidden to fly here. There was no way for them to go up. Lan Luoyen thought of Lan Luoshan putting away the rope ladder and could not help but curse, Lan Luoshan and Lan Luohan, those two bastards really deserve to die. Not only did they secretly attack us, they even put away the rope ladder. They really want us to die. Lan Luoji and the others were also cursing, wishing they could tear Lan Luoshan and Lan Luohan into pieces. Lan Luofang approached Yun Chujo and asked, Little Jiu, do you have a way to go up? Chapter 50-40, the first level of the levitation layer. Yun Chujo heard Lan Luofang's question and giggled. How difficult is that? Lan Luoyen pouted. Anyone can talk big. What can you do? Can you grow wings and fly up? Yun Chujo glanced at her. Although I can't grow wings and fly up, I have ropes. Yun Chujo took out a bundle of rope as she spoke. This storage ring had everything in it. Naturally, she would prepare the necessary things like ropes. The mocking expression on Lan Luoyan's face became even more intense. What's the use of having a rope? Let's not talk about whether you can throw the rope so high. Even if you can throw it up, there's nothing on it that can fix the rope. Isn't it still useless? Although Lan Luofang was dissatisfied with Lan Luoyan's attitude, she felt that what she said made sense. There was a rope in their storage rings, but the levitation layer was at least 30 meters above the ground. There was no way to fix the rope. Could it work? Yun Chujo did not say anything. She just smiled and took out the rolling pin. She tied the rope to one end of the rolling pin and stuck the rolling pin into the ground. As the Lan family members inhaled, the rolling pin grew taller and taller. It was even taller than the first layer of the levitation layer. Lan Luofang asked weakly, "Little Jiu, this pin is so thin. Can it bear our weight?" Yun Chujo shook her head. The longer the pin was, the weaker its power. It could not bear the weight of an adult. Lan Luofang saw that Yun Chujo shook her head and denied it. She asked, "Then what do you plan to do?" "I'll let one of my helpers go up first and then pull us up," Yun Chujo said. Everyone looked at each other. Helper? What helper? Just as everyone was puzzled, they saw that Yun Chujo released a Xiaohei rat. It seemed to be of an unusually low rank. She couldn't be thinking of letting this little thing pull them up, right? What kind of joke was this? They could kill this weak little thing with one finger. Yun Chujo ignored their gazes and gave a few instructions to the Xiaohei rat. Then, the Xiaohei rat climbed up along the rolling pin. Xiaohei rat climbed to the top of the rolling pin. Seeing that there was nothing unusual inside, it reported the news to Yun Chujo. Yun Chujo then leaned the rolling pin against the levitating layer. Xiaohei rat untied the rope and jumped onto the levitating layer. Yun Chujo immediately grabbed one end of the rope and motioned Xiaohei to pull her up. Lan Luoyan could not hold it in anymore. "Yun Chujo, are you crazy? How can that little thing be pulled up?" Everyone's faces were filled with shock. Oh my god, that little thing actually had such great strength? This was too unbelievable. After Yun Chujo was pulled up, the Xiaohei rat also pulled the others up to the floating layer. While everyone was shocked, they started to look at their surroundings. They were in a small square. The green stone slabs on the ground were exactly the same as the ones on the streets, but the patterns were more complicated and exquisite. Yun Chujo put away Xiaohei and the dough stick and said, "Let's go in and take a look." Everyone knew what to do and did not ask about Xiaohei and the dough stick. They were more afraid of Yun Chujo. After leaving the square, everyone realized that the floating floor was no different from the streets. The only difference was that the pavilions on the side of the road were more intact and more exquisite. Chapter 50 41-inch iron rooster becomes a spirit. Yun Chujo thought to herself that the celestials living in this floating floor were probably of a higher level than the celestials living in the lower levels. Moreover, the higher the level, the higher the level. This was also normal. There were different levels in every place. Even the celestials were not exempt from it. As the buildings here were more well preserved, the plaques on the buildings were basically still there. However, they were all written in ancient characters. Hei Xinjiu only knew a little of the ancient characters, but Butt-Face did. So, Butt-Face eagerly explained to Yun Chujo. "Little fairy, the plaque on the left says Cloud Weaving Manor, and the plaque on the right says Rouge House. Most of them are satin houses, and one sells rouge powder." Out of curiosity, Yun Chujo entered the Cloud Weaving Manor on the left. It was empty, and she didn't know if it had been destroyed or if it had been taken away by someone from the previous trial. The Rouge building on the right was in the same situation. There was only an empty room left. Yun Chujo entered a few more pavilions, and it was the same situation. "It seems that the barrier to teleport out isn't on the first level," said Lan Luomu. Yun Chujo raised her eyebrows. "How do you know?" Lan Luomu took out something that looked like an arrayed disc and said, "My grandfather gave this to me. It can sense teleportation barriers. My grandfather got this when he participated in the Divine Relic trial. It can sense a wide range, but there's no reaction at all. This means that the teleportation barrier at the exit isn't on this level." Lan Luomu naturally didn't plan to reveal that he had such a treasure, but now that they were all in the same boat, there was nothing to hide. After all, survival was more important. Yun Chujo was very satisfied with Lan Luma's ability to adapt to the situation. She chuckled and said, since that's the case, then we won't waste time on the first level. Let's go find the entrance to the second level. Everyone easily found the second entrance in the center of the city. It was a flight of stairs that looked no different from ordinary stone steps. However, they found a lot of blood and 4 corpses under the stairs. Among the 4 corpses, 2 of them were wearing the Qi family's clothing. The other 2 were wearing the Zhuang family's clothing, and the other one was wearing the Mu family's clothing. When everyone saw the corpses and the mottled blood stains on the steps, their expressions immediately changed. At this moment, the sky had already darkened. Yun Chujo thought for a moment and decided to let everyone spend the night on the first level of the levitation layer. They would discuss countermeasures after daybreak. Everyone did not have any objections. They found a relatively spacious empty space nearby to rest, but all of them had solemn expressions on their faces. There were so many people from the Mu family, but they had actually lost 4 people on this step. Could they safely pass through this step? Yun Chujo did not treat her stomach unfairly at all times. She slowly began to roast the meat. Everyone from the Lan family was speechless. What kind of situation was this? They actually had the mood to roast meat. However, when the aroma of the roasted meat spread, everyone could not help but swallow their saliva. They had been eating fasting pills for the past few days. Now that they smelled the aroma of the barbecued meat, they naturally had a craving for it. Yun Chujo smiled and said, "Do you want to eat it?" A skewer of barbecued meat costs 100 high-grade spirit stones. You won't be at a loss if you buy it for 100 spirit stones. You won't be fooled. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Everyone from the Lan family was so angry that their noses almost went crooked. This fellow was simply an iron rooster that had turned into a spirit. Even at this time, he still wanted to make money. Chapter 50-42, Do You All Hate Me? Everyone glared at Yun Chujo. Previously, they had no choice but to pay to rent a spiritual beast. Now, there was no need to give her money for the sake of food. Hence, they turned their heads away and did not say anything. Only Lan Luofeng came over and said, "Little Jiu, with our relationship, there's no need to talk about money, right? If we talk about money, it would hurt our relationship." Yun Chujo pouted and stuffed a piece of roasted meat to her. This girl's skin was getting thicker and thicker. She didn't know who she learned it from. Lan Luoyen saw the situation and said fiercely, "Eat, eat, eat. All you know is to eat. If we can't find the strange part of the stairs, we'll be trapped here to death." Yun Chujo said lazily, "What are you worried about? Mu Zian and those idiots can find a way to get up, so naturally, we can too. They sacrificed 4 lives to find a way." Lan Luoyen said angrily. Yun Chujo curled her lips. "We can do that too. You will be the first one to go up tomorrow." "You, how dare you?" Lan Luoyen stood up abruptly. She was both angry and afraid. If Yun Chujo really insisted on doing this, no one would speak up for her. After all, her life was at stake now. Who could control who? "There is nothing in this world that I don't dare to do. If you don't want to be the first one to go up, come over and help me roast the meat," Yun Chujo said with a chuckle. Lan Luoyen bit her lips, but she still chickened out. Gritting her teeth, she helped He Xinjiu roast the meat. She cursed in her heart, "Eat, eat, eat, it's better to eat to death. Come, everyone, let's eat together. I was just playing with you. I'm such a generous person, why would I want your money?" He Xinjiu said with a smile. The crowd pursed their lips. "You're generous? Do you believe it?" However, the crowd still gathered around. Whether it was the bright fire or the hot roasted meat, they could relax for a moment. They often participated in some trials, but this was the first time they encountered such a dangerous situation. They could hardly relax for a moment. When they were almost done eating, Yun Chujio asked lazily, "Do you hate me a lot?" "Why?" Everyone's faces stiffened. They had never expected Hei Shinjo to ask such a question. On second thought, it seemed that Yun Chujio did not bother them at all. Why did they want to kill her? Lan Luoyen said hatefully, "We are the ones with the surname Lan. You are a foreigner from a lower continent. Why should our ancestors look at you differently? Everyone, you deserve to be hated. You deserve it." Yun Chujio continued, "I know that the Lan family has never rejected internal strife, so all of you want to trample others under your feet. I'm also an outsider, and I've even caught the eye of the old ancestor, so all of you can't wait to leave. This isn't a big deal, I understand." Everyone was dumbfounded. What did this troublemaker mean? It's just that people have to know their limits. You're not my match, so you can't beat me. Moreover, I don't plan to do anything to you. You really don't have to be my enemy. If I wanted you dead, I wouldn't have shown up. I wouldn't have saved you. After all, we all have the blood of the Lan family. There's no one closer to us in this world. Do you think it's fun to fight among ourselves? Chapter 50-43, Do I Owe You a Grudge? Hearing Yun Chujio's words, the members of the Lan family felt a little complicated. Their thoughts were deeply rooted, so they naturally would not change just because of Yun Chujio's words. It was just that in this environment, hearing these words, they inexplicably felt that they had more reliance and trust in the people around them. That's right, compared to the people of the Mu family, these people here at least had the same blood flowing in their bodies. They were family. Lan Luoyen bit her lips. Even if what you said makes sense, aren't Lan Luoshan and Lan Luohan also members of the Lan family? They still stabbed us in the back. Yun Chujio raised her eyebrows. There are all kinds of birds in this forest. There will inevitably be a few scumbags. Don't worry, I will give you the chance to kill them personally. For a moment, no one said anything. Only the crackling sound of firewood could be heard. After a while, Lan Luoyen suddenly started to cry. At first, it was a suppressed cry, but in the end, it turned into a wail. Lan Luofang also started to sob. Although the others did not cry, they were all very depressed. The reason was very simple. They were afraid of death. There were 18 layers of levitation here. It was very likely that the teleportation enchantment would be set up on the 18th layer. Could they find the teleportation enchantment within the stipulated time limit? Lan Luoyen cried for a while and shouted fiercely, "Yun Chujio, tell me, do you think we can leave this place alive?" Yun Chujio revealed an extremely brilliant smile. "Of course. I still have a lot of things to do. Naturally, I won't stay in this lousy place." Everyone was stunned by Yun Chujio's smile. For the first time, they realized that this troublemaker was very good-looking. Lan Luoyen snorted coldly. "If you can really bring me out safely, I won't go against you in the future." Yun Chujio curled her lips. "You speak as if you can do anything to me. I remember that you're the one who gets beaten up every time, right?" Lan Luoyen was so angry that she almost vomited blood. However, after being rebuked by Hei Shinjo, she did not feel so sad anymore. Instead, she felt more at ease for some reason. Could it be that she needed to be rebuked? "Also, if there's anything you need, just let me know." Lan Luocheng and the others also spoke up. Their meaning was basically the same as Lan Lumis. Yun Chujio nodded. "Don't worry, we will all leave this place alive. After all, the Lan family has never been cowards who leave our fate to fate." When everyone saw Yun Chujio's determined and confident gaze, they felt a strange emotion rise in their hearts. It was an emotion that could not be described with words. Worship? Trust? Envy? In short, at this moment, they truly recognized Yun Chujio's identity as the team leader. It was not because of the old ancestors' orders, nor was it because of Elder Tua's poison. It was simply because she was Yun Chujo. The little silver snake in his sleeve pocket snorted in his heart. This ugly girl really knew how to bewitch people's hearts. Since she was so eloquent, why didn't she apologize to him? Didn't she know that he was angry? He didn't care about her apology. He just wanted to give her a chance to repent. Yes, that was it. Hei Shinjo didn't know what a certain prideful person was thinking. She was very satisfied when she saw the members of the Lan family turn from a pile of loose sand into obedient babies. She arranged for Lan Luaji and Lan Luamu to be on night duty and then lay down on the blanket and fell asleep. After noticing that she had fallen asleep, Goei Batsao, which was hidden in its hair, hopped onto the ground. Ha, it's time for Goei Ba tale. Chapter 5044, The delightful Goei Batsao. Goei Bakao's body was very small, and its spiritual energy fluctuation was very small. No one had noticed its existence. If Di Baiming had not been so severely injured, perhaps he would have noticed it. However, he was very weak at the moment, so he did not notice Goei Bakao's movement. Goei Batsao jumped on the ground, feeling very good about itself. It liked the feeling of being alone in heaven and on earth. It was simply happy. That wretched girl thought that it was willing to stay shamelessly in her dantian. If it was not for the fact that it was absorbing the power of lightning, did she think that she would care about her? Pooey. Shameless. Guai Chao cursed Yun Chujo dozens of times in his heart. He felt that the depression of the past few days had suddenly disappeared. Guai Chao was so bold as to jump around on Lan Luofang and the others' faces, but the people in their dreams did not notice it at all. Guai Chao placed a leaf on his waist and was extremely proud. A bunch of idiots. However, after jumping around for a while, there was nothing new about it. It remembered the steps that led to the second level of the levitation layer that it saw during the day, and decided to take a look. It quickly waved its leaves, and the entire plant flew up. Soon, it arrived at the bottom of the levitation layer's steps. Under the moonlight, both the corpse next to the stairs and the blood stains on the stairs were particularly horrifying. However, Goei Batsao never knew what fear was. It jumped to the top of the first step, but nothing happened. It jumped to the top of the second step, but there was still nothing unusual. When it jumped to the third step, countless spiritual arrows shot out from the bottom of the step. Goei Batsao didn't care about this at all. Its size was very small, and as long as it was careful, those arrows wouldn't be able to hit it. Goei Batsao continued to jump forward. There was nothing unusual on the fourth and fifth steps, but on the sixth step, vines made of spiritual power grew out, and Goei Batsao easily dodged them. Next, Goei Batsao found a pattern. It would be attacked every 2 steps, which were all attacks made of spiritual power. If it was a cultivator, they might be able to easily dodge or defend at the beginning. However, because there were too many steps, it was inevitable that they would be attacked later. Fortunately, Goei Batsao was very light and agile. It jumped with all its strength and jumped to the second levitation layer. Goei Batsao thought to himself, this move is quite vicious. At this point, everyone would feel that victory was within reach, so they would lower their guard and fall to their deaths easily. Thinking of this fellow proudly waved its leaves. So what if it was sinister? Once Goei Batsao appeared, who would contend with it? This fellow felt that it had almost finished investigating. When the sun rose, it would be able to take credit from the smelly girl. Although the language wasn't fluent, that stinky girl was still considered smart. It gestured with its hands, and perhaps she would be able to understand. Thinking of this, Goei Batsao prepared to return the way it came. At this moment, Goei Batsao caught a glimpse of something that seemed to be in the fault of the stairs that had disappeared earlier. Oh my, could it be the formation plate? If it destroyed the formation plate, wouldn't the formation on the stairs be gone? In that case, the stinky girl and the others could come up unimpeded. At that time, even if the stinky girl found out that it had a small treasury, it could still take credit for this matter. Chapter 5045 was probably in trouble again. Goei Batsao felt that it was too smart. Therefore, before the steps recovered, it directly jumped into the fault of the steps. If it was an ordinary person, they would not be able to find the formation plate inside the fault, because this formation plate was different from the formation plate that was popular outside. It was very small. If it was not for the moonlight reflecting a ray of light, and because of Goei Bakao's small size and low visibility, they would not have been able to find it. Goei Batsao looked at the disc array and proudly shook its leaves. It only needed to dig out the bead in the center of the disc array, and the array would naturally stop. Therefore, Goei Batsao enlarged its body and used its leaves to dig out the bead. However, the bead was fixed quite firmly, and Goei Bakao's leaves were not very flexible, so it took a long time to dig it out. While Goei Batsao was busy, the missing steps reappeared, and Goei Batsao was unfortunately sealed inside the steps. Goei Batsao was so angry. It could only give up on digging the bead, wanting to shrink its body and jump out. Unfortunately, it discovered that after the steps returned to their original position, the place was sealed by a barrier, and it could not get out. Goei Batsao could not help but feel sorrowful. Was there any grass in this world that was more miserable than it? What did it do wrong to suffer such abuse? In its anger, Goei Bakao's little temper flared up. Fuck, it should just directly destroy this broken formation disc. As long as the formation disc was destroyed, this barrier would naturally cease to exist. It could then get out. Hence, Goei Batsao began to beat the formation disc frantically with its leaves in an attempt to destroy the formation disc. Coincidentally, its leaves struck the weak spot of the formation disc and cracks began to appear on the formation disc. Eventually, it completely shattered and the enchantment disappeared. Goei Batsao was very pleased with itself. Little fellow, you still want to go against Goei Batsao? Damn you. This fellow was just about to shrink its body and jump out of the gap when it realized that the place it was at began to shake violently. Goei Batsao was dumbfounded. What was going on? What happened? Before it could recover its senses, it heard the sound of heavy objects landing on the ground. It immediately had an ominous premonition in its heart. The steps that led from the first level to the second level were no longer there. Instead, there was a pile of ruins on the ground. Goei Batsao could feel that God was malicious towards it. It didn't do anything. Why did it become like this? Goei Batsao suddenly trembled. If the little brat knew that it was done by it, it would probably turn into dried grass. At this moment, the sound of footsteps came from afar. Goei Batsao knew that the loud sound must have woken up Yun Chujio and the others. It trembled even more violently and hurriedly hid in the bushes nearby. Very soon, Yun Chujio and the others arrived. Everyone stared at the ruins in front of them with their mouths agape. What happened? Why is this staircase suddenly damaged? It was fine during the day, how did it suddenly become like this? Lan Luofang said in fear. Could it be that Mu Zian and the others damaged it? How can we go up without the steps? Lan Luoji said in panic. Lan Luomu frowned, it shouldn't be them. After all, they don't know that we're not dead yet. Besides, they don't need to spend so much effort to destroy the steps. Go Weiba in the grass was scared and proud. No matter how these people guessed, they wouldn't guess that it was Go Weiba who did it. Chapter 5046, Hercules Yun Chujio did not pay attention to the discussions of the crowd. Instead, she began to rummage through the ruins. Everything would leave a trace. Perhaps they could find clues from within. Seeing this, the crowd stopped their discussions and helped Yun Chujio rummage through the ruins. Very soon, Lan Luofang pointed at a bead on the ground and said, What is this? Everyone's gaze fell on the bead on Lan Luofang's finger. It was a lustrous and shiny bead, but it was not a false bead. Everyone could feel the rich spiritual energy emitted from it, and it was even denser than supreme-grade spirit stones. Yun Chujo walked up and picked up the bead, looked at it, and said, "It looks like something similar to spirit stones, but the spiritual energy contained in it is denser and purer. If I'm not wrong, this bead should have been embedded in the array disk. Let's look for it and see if we can find something similar to the array disk." Go-Wei Butsao in the grass shook its leaves. This stupid girl was really smart to be able to guess it. The group quickly found a few fragments of the array disk in the ruins. Although they looked different from the array disk outside, they could still tell from the ancient runes on it. It seems that the array board exploded for some reason, resulting in the destruction of the steps, Yun Chujo guessed. Everyone felt that what she said made sense, but why did the array board suddenly explode? "Little Joe, now that the steps are destroyed, how do we go up?" Lan Luofang asked worriedly. Yun Chujo smiled lightly. "This isn't a difficult matter. Previously, we went up to the first floor the same way we went up to the second floor. I was worried that there was something wrong with the stairs, so I didn't dare to use the previous method. Now that the stairs have been destroyed, there's nothing to worry about. After daybreak, we'll use the old method to go to the second floor of the levitation layer." Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when they heard that. From the looks of it, it was a good thing that the stairs were destroyed. Guai Chao, who was in the bushes, was stunned for a moment before thinking smugly, "HMPH. As it had said, how could Go Weiba, who had such a powerful dog tail, cause trouble? Just look at it, it had unintentionally achieved a miraculous feat. It was simply a piece of cake." Yun Chujo felt the smug mood of the Guai Chao in her dantian. She was puzzled, what was the point of it being smug? Is it crazy? If it was not afraid that Yun Chujo would discover that it had hidden a small treasury, it would definitely jump in front of Hei Shinjo to clear its name. However, it was afraid that Yun Chujo would discover it and it would never be able to go out again, so it did not dare to do anything. Go-Wei Butsao flew to Yun Chujia's hair when Yun Chujo was not paying attention. After daybreak, Yun Chujo asked the rolling pin to send Xiao Hei to the second level of the levitation layer and then pulled everyone up. The second level of the levitation layer did not look much different from the first level. Lan Luomu took out something that looked like a disc array and tried it. Then, he shook his head at Yun Chujo. Seeing this, Yun Chujo knew that there was no teleportation barrier on this level. She didn't feel surprised. She had a vague feeling that the teleportation barrier would be placed on the highest level of the levitation layer. Thus, Yun Chujo led everyone to the stairs leading to the third level. However, after walking for about an hour, everyone's expressions became serious. Chapter 50-47, Woman Yun Chujo and the others found a lot of blood on the ground, and they also found 2 corpses. When they saw the miserable state of the corpses, they could not help but feel a chill run down their spines. There were countless deep scratches on the bodies of the 2 corpses. Their faces had been scratched so much that their original appearances could not be seen. What was even more puzzling was that the 2 corpses were naked on the top, but their bottoms were covered by red gauze. Yun Chujo originally wanted to go up and examine them, but she guessed that the 2 of them were also naked on the bottom. She was afraid that some jealous person would make a scene, so she asked Lan Luomu to go up and examine them. Yun Chujo was afraid that the corpses were poisonous, so she specially brought a gas mask for Lan Luomu and gave him a pair of heavenly silk gloves. Lan Luomu looked at the 2 things. Although he had never seen them before, his mind was sharp, so he immediately guessed the effect. Therefore, after putting them on, he resisted the nausea and examined the corpses. Yun Chujo, Lan Luoyen, and Lan Luofang averted their gazes so as not to hurt their eyes. A moment later, Lan Luochen covered the red gauze once again and said, "These 2 people's bottoms are also naked, and, yes, they were seriously injured. I guess that the cause of their death was not due to external injuries. It seems that they were sucked dry of their essence and blood." Seeing that the 2 of them were not wearing any clothes, everyone had already guessed a thing or 2. Therefore, they were not surprised to hear Lan Luma's words. However, the expression on their faces became even more solemn. At this moment, Lan Luofeng found some pieces of clothes at the side. These clothes should belong to the Qi family. It seems that these two people should be from the Qi family. Yun Chujia's expression did not change much. She looked at the wounds on the corpses and said, these two people should have been dead for at least 3 days. Mu Zian and the others should have already left the second level by now. Moreover, since these two bodies have not been eaten, it means that there are no wild beasts in the second level. Lan Luoyen said with a sobbing voice, although there are no wild beasts, I'm afraid there are things that are more terrifying than wild beasts. Yun Chujio glanced at her. Don't worry. That thing probably only likes men. Why are you worried? As soon as Yun Chujio said that, Lan Luoyen stopped crying, while Lan Luamu and the others shivered. Alright, maybe that thing has already been killed by Mu Zian and the others. Let's continue on our way. Yun Chujio said indifferently. Seeing that her tone was so relaxed, everyone's mood eased up a little. Actually, Yun Chujio was also very worried. However, as the leader, if she appeared to be very worried, the people below would be even more anxious. Therefore, she had to stabilize the morale of the army. Not long after the group walked out, a woman in red walked towards them. As they got closer, the group also saw the woman's appearance clearly. Her appearance was naturally incomparably beautiful. Moreover, her actions were intentionally or unintentionally charming, making people blush and their hearts beat. Of course, Lan Luamu and the others had already seen the two tragic corpses. At this moment, there was only fear in their hearts, not the slightest bit of infatuation. Everyone's faces were solemn, and cold sweat started to appear on their foreheads. This woman was most likely the murderer of the previous two people. Was she a human or something else? Everyone subconsciously wanted to run back, but they heard Yun Chujio say with a smile, Auntie in front, the men here are all eunuchs. Don't waste your time. Hurry up and find someone else. Lan Luamu and the others, a certain person in the sleeve bag. Chapter 50-48. The two of them should stay. The woman was obviously shocked by Yun Chujia's words. She stopped in her tracks and then smiled seductively. Little sister, your eyesight isn't good at such a young age. I think it's useless to keep your eyes. Why don't you dig them out? Aunt, don't talk about these useless things. Hurry up and leave. Otherwise, if our companions come back, you won't survive. Yun Chujio said tentatively. The woman sneered, they have already gone to the third level. Why would they come back to save you? Previously, they volunteered to leave two people for me to play with. If you do as I say, I will let the others leave. Otherwise, all of you can stay here. Everyone was stunned when they heard that. Mu Zian and the others actually volunteered to leave the two people behind. They were really ruthless. However, if they had not been dealt with by Yun Chujio previously, perhaps they would have done the same. After all, nothing was more important than their own lives. Yun Chujio did not only think of this. Since this woman was willing to offer to let them leave, it was most likely because this woman was not that strong. Otherwise, wouldn't it be better if they all stayed? The woman saw that Yun Chujio did not speak and thought that she had agreed to her suggestion. She pointed at Lan Luamu and Lan Luocheng and said, I think the two of them are not bad. Let them stay. Lan Luamu and Lan Luocheng's expressions immediately changed. That troublemaker would not abandon them, right? At this moment, Yun Chujio chuckled and said, Aunt, this bluff won't work on me. I don't care what you are, these people are my people. I won't leave any of them for you. The woman misunderstood Yun Chujio's words and thought that she meant that Lan Luamu and the others were her men. She couldn't help but sneer, you little girl, you have no breasts, no body, and you have a big appetite. If you don't agree with me, none of you can think of leaving. As soon as the girl finished speaking, she found that the little girl who had been fooling around was emitting a strong murderous aura. Yun Chujio's face was cold. Who the fuck are you calling having no breasts? Who are you calling having no body? You ugly freak, you old hag. I'll kill you. Hei Shinjo, who had been stepped on by the cat's tail, was not in the mood to argue with the girl anymore. She immediately waved her paw and said, "Release the spiritual beast to take care of her. Since she is willing to offer conditions, she is not that powerful. Don't be afraid of her." Hearing that, Lan Luamu and the others felt that what she said made sense. Although this woman was strange, she was not necessarily capable. Therefore, they all released their spiritual beasts to attack the woman. The woman snorted and her body suddenly changed into a huge white fox with 7 huge tails behind her. However, his reminder was a little late. Lan Luocheng and Lan Luoji had already fallen for it. The two people's eyes suddenly became dull, and their bodies couldn't help but move forward. Yun Chujo took out a large awl and threw it to Lan Luofang, stab. Lan Luofang saw the awl that was as thick as a pinky finger, and swallowed her saliva. It seemed that little Nine was still kind to her last time, and only used needles to stab her. Lan Luofang took the big awl and gave it to Lan Luocheng and Lan Luoji. She was secretly happy. They had mocked her many times before. It was really satisfying. Lan Luocheng and Lan Luoji recovered from the pain and did not have time to say anything. They quickly joined the battle. The white fox gradually fell into a disadvantage. Just when everyone was relieved, the white fox's aura suddenly soared and another tail grew out from its back. Chapter 5049 Scared you to death. Not good, it's actually an 8-tailed fox, everyone be careful. Lan Luma's voice was slightly trembling. Although the 7-tailed charm fox and the 8-tailed fox only lacked 1 tail, the difference between the two could be said to be heaven and earth. Fortunately, this woman was not a 9-tailed fox, or else there would really be no way to survive. Yun Chujo rolled her eyes and shouted, "Hey, Aunt, I advise you not to be brave. If you forcefully use 8 tails, you might not be able to preserve your appearance." The woman gritted her teeth and said, "Stupid girl, you're courting death. It doesn't matter even if you do that. As long as I pick up a few more men, I'll naturally be able to restore my looks." Hearing that, Yun Chujo immediately understood that her guess was right. This fox should have forcefully increased her strength. As long as she delayed it for a while, it would not be able to hold on anymore. Therefore, this fellow said with a smile, "Aunt, it's useless even if you act tough. Can you still transform into 9 tails if you continue to act tough? There's a 9-tailed fox in my spiritual pet. If I let it out, you'll be scared to death." The woman suddenly stopped and took a few steps back. "What did you say?" Yun Chujo thought that she was afraid and said proudly, "Are you afraid? Get out of here quickly, or I'll let out the 9-tailed fox to scare you to death." The woman snorted coldly. 9-tailed fox? You really dare to say that? Show me if you have the ability. The Lan family members were speechless when they saw Hei Shinjo. Even if you lied, there must be a limit. 9-tailed fox? It was rare to see a fox with 4 tails, okay? Yun Chujo slowly summoned Xiao Hong and said, "See? I'm asking if you're afraid." The corners of the Lan family members' eyes twitched. Although the fire fox in front of them had grown 6 tails, it was still far from having 9 tails. Xiao Hong felt the contempt of the crowd. If she was not afraid that Yun Chujo would take care of it, she would have used the 9-tailed fox to show off. The woman sized up Xiao Hong and snorted, "Is this the 9-tailed fox you were talking about? This is the son of the 9-tailed fox. If you don't know your place, I will release the 9-tailed fox." Yun Chujo said with her arms crossed. Xiao Hong's heart was like a dog that was bickering. For no reason, she had a father. The woman laughed mockingly. "Little girl, your words might be able to fool others, but to fool me? You really have the wrong plan. The 9-tailed fox's cultivation is superb. How could it be subdued by a little girl like you? Furthermore, do you know what my relationship with it is? It won't harm me at all." Yun Chujo blinked her eyes and said deliberately, "Is the 9-tailed fox your son or your father?" The woman was so angry that she gritted her teeth. The nine-tailed fox is my husband. Cut the crap and accept your death. Yun Chujo took out a bone and threw it in front of the woman. Here, your husband. The woman saw that the bone suddenly turned into a human shape. She picked up the bone and took a few steps back in disbelief. This is impossible. Where did you get it? Yun Chuji's eyes flashed. I found it on a low-level continent. At that time, there was the skeleton of a nine-tailed fox, and it was locked with 6 10,000-year-old black iron chains. That nine-tailed fox only has a remnant soul left. It asked me to help it. What favor? The woman could not wait to ask. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.